Hey guys, welcome back to Wentworth Live, the channel that's been around for nearly 6 years, that's always aimed to give you guys Wentworth related content. If this is your first time here, then please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Okay, well in today's video I am going to be reviewing Wentworth Season 2 Episode 7, Metamorphosis, and I really hope that I've pronounced that one right. I flipping love this episode. It's one of those proper amazing episodes that we got from Season 2. This is the episode that created Vinegar Tits, and poor Vera, she has the worst couple of days ever in this episode. Let's start with the opening scene where Joan Ferguson has ordered a bulldozer to destroy the garden project, and she then forces the women to watch. Joan tells Vera that the women broke their end of the contract and that they cannot show any ounce of weakness. Joan is obviously pretty pissed off about what happened with the garden project last week with the drugs coming in. Later in the episode, Joan tells Vera that she is putting her in charge of solving this contraband incident with the garden project, and she tells Vera that this is her time to shine. But let's not forget, Vera is currently looking after her very sick mother at home, and she's got a lot on her plate at the moment. There's a really horrible scene where Vera is trying to feed her dying mother, and her mum ends up abusing her yet again, saying that she has always been a disappointment to her, even as a little girl. I mean, wow. Vera's mum then goes on to bring up an awful childhood memory for Vera where the kids would call Vera Stinky Pants after she had wet herself after show and tell. And I mean, this is supposed to be Vera's mother. What a bitch. Vera's mum then begs for more morphine, but she's not allowed any more until midnight, and she then grabs Vera's arm and screams at her. I mean, she literally turns into the Exorcist. It's quite terrifying. I hated the way Vera's mum was treating her, abusing her 1 minute and then begging for drugs the next. I'll say it once again, what a bitch. Later on, Vera sees Fletcher drop some of this powdered substance on the floor in a little plastic bag. He then picks it up and puts it into his locker. Now Vera ends up thinking that Mr. Fletcher might be the one bringing drugs in for the women, and after a little bit of shit stirring from Frankie, Vera ends up reporting him to Joan, and she also calls in the squad to search his locker. When they arrive, they find the substance, but Fletcher says that it's just amino acids. But Joan ends up suspending him anyway, until the team can at least identify what this powdered substance really is. Back over to Vera's evil mother now, and her mum continues to cry and scream out for more medication. But Vera, she cannot give her any more because it would be pretty much lethal. Vera ends up running into the kitchen and she starts proper losing it. She's shouting out, "Shut up, just shut up!" Vera proper loses it, and you can see that everything is really getting to her. And what makes things worse is that Joan rings Vera and tells her that the substance in Fletcher's locker was indeed amino acids, and that she is disappointed in Vera. Oh god, I really don't know how much more Vera can take. When Fletcher finds out that Frankie was shit-stirring to Vera, he ends up attacking her in her cell and grabs her by the throat. Luckily, Doreen comes in and Fletcher backs off, but Frankie wants to get some revenge on him, and I tell you what, Fletcher was really out of line in this scene. Frankie organizes Boomer and some of the girls to pour vinegar in the kitchen onto the floor, and some of the other girls, they take some of these random officers hostage in that little watch box thing that they use in the dining room, and they end up hitting the panic alarm. Frankie just sits there and waits for Fletcher to arrive, but it's actually Vera who ends up walking into the dining room, and she ends up slipping on that vinegar. All of the women are there and they're pointing and they're laughing at Vera, and every time Vera tries to get up off the floor, she slips back down and onto her front, and she's pretty much, in one hell of a mess. And some of the women, none of them are helping her, and this is where Boomer ends up calling Vera vinegar tits, because Vera, she's got vinegar all over her, including her tits. The moment where Vera is walking through the dining room with the women laughing and pointing at her, I honestly thought that Vera was just going to completely lose it. That is one broken woman who just cannot take any more. I really felt sorry for Vera in this scene, but it is also a great moment for Prisoner fans to see the birth of Vinegar Tits. Joan checks on Vera in the sickbay unit, and this is where Joan tells Vera that she just isn't up to the job and that Miss Miles will take over her duties while she takes some leave. And Joan tells Vera to basically go home and to take care of her mother. Now, I don't know what happened here. It always baffles me, but was Joan actually planting a seed into Vera's head to force Vera to get rid of her mother once and for all, because her mum was taking all of Vera's focus from the job that Vera loves? Or did Vera just come up with the idea all by herself? We all know that Joan Ferguson forces people to put things into their own eyeballs in later seasons. So was this Joan's first master manipulation, where she basically manipulated Vera to kill her own mother? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments box below. This takes us to Vera's final scene in the episode, and Vera does indeed give her mum a very fatal dose of morphine, ending her mother's life. I can remember when I first saw this scene, I was like, what? Vera has just committed murder. Surely that's going to show up in the post-mortem. I was genuinely shocked at this ending, and from here on in, this is where I start to dislike Vera for a little bit. Vera does turn into a little bit of a mini Joan Ferguson for the rest of season 2 and maybe for the first half of season 3, but more on that when we get to it. Moving on to Maxine, who's expecting a visit from her partner Gary, but Gary's brother Martin ends up coming to see her instead because Gary doesn't seem interested in coming in to see Maxine. Martin tells Maxine that Gary is leaving for a big job thing very soon, but Maxine really wants to see Gary to tell him that she's sorry for stabbing him and that she loves him. So later on, there's a scene where Marge Novak ends up suffering a bleed with her varicose veins, and Maxine helps Marge along with Mr. Jackson. Now they both end up covered in Marge's blood, and when Will takes his shirt off and dumps it into the wash bag, Maxine steals the uniform and dyes it a different color. Maxine is intending to escape with the help of Martin, because when he comes back for a second visit, he gives Maxine his visitor's pass, and Maxine takes off her wig and she ends up walking straight out of the prison with the rest of the visitors. Unfortunately for Maxine, Vera has spotted her and she alerts Will, who ends up tackling Maxine to the ground. It's a really sad scene, and you can see just how desperate that Maxine is to see Gary, even though Gary doesn't deserve Maxine's love. And Maxine, she ends up in the slot, and Vera won't even give Maxine back her wig. Frankie is interested in learning what happened to Simone when she died, because B tells Frankie that that pink dragon stuff was still in the needle. So Frankie goes to Boomer to see if she sold any to Simone, but Boomer doesn't have a clue because the bag was basically still sealed when Fletcher found this stuff. This leads me on to a really intense, interesting scene between Joan and Frankie, where Frankie learns that Simone must have been hot-shotted, and Joan looks at Frankie in this sinister, creepy way, where the penny finally drops for Frankie because Frankie knows that the bag was still sealed and it was given to Joan, so Joan must have been the one to hotshot her. But Joan plants a different seed into Frankie's head, telling her that she has an informant in her ranks because this informant told them where to find the drugs, and this does not sit well with Frankie. Of course, we all know that it was Liz Birdsworth, and I was like, oh, Ferguson, you bitch. Liz helped you out, and this is how you repay her. And this is why you never trust Joan Ferguson. There was also a shock pregnancy in this episode where Doreen, she ends up having a visit from Tony, and we learn that Tony was released sometime between season 1 and season 2. And Tony, she is looking amazing. You can see that she is off the drugs and she is making a good new life for herself. But Tony has come to see Doreen for one specific purpose: to give her a pregnancy test. Yes, Doreen is pregnant after her steamy sex session with Nash in the garden shed. Frankie tells Doreen that she better hope that Ferguson doesn't find out, but Doreen tells B and Liz that she's gonna have to hide the pregnancy at least until when Nash is let out of the men's prison. But can Doreen keep up the secret? There's a really cool scene between Frankie and her solicitor where Frankie is trying to claim self-defense against Batesy because he was trying to rape Frankie in the garden shed in the last episode. This solicitor guy tells Frankie that Batesy is basically saying that they were both an item and that it was complicit, and Frankie tells him that she doesn't like sausage, she is a vegetarian. And then the solicitor guy says, what does that even mean? I mean, really? Come on, Mr. Solicitor Guy, use your imagination. This was a very full-on episode with a lot going on, but it was flipping amazing. It's one of those episodes where you really need to watch it a good few times to really absorb everything that happens, and it's an episode that I will never get bored of watching. My favourite part has to be the moment where Vera becomes Vinegar Tits. I know it's not a very nice moment for Vera, but it's entertaining for us viewers. My least favourite moment has to be, when Vera's mother is attacking her and literally turns into a demented demon. She was crazy in this episode, and Vera really didn't deserve that. And something else that I didn't like about this episode was the moment where Fletcher hits Maxine in the face with a mop when he's trying to force her to clean up some sick. I really didn't like that. I really hate Fletcher for the next couple of episodes. But now it's time to hear some of your thoughts. I bet you guys have got some juicy comments on this incredible episode. So let me know everything in the comments box below, and let me know if you were shocked at what Vera did to her mother. Okay then guys, well, we've reached the end of this video. I hope you really enjoyed. Thank you all for stopping by and watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. Stay safe out there, and I will see you all again very, very soon. Bye guys.